The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in their seats, waiting. The light from distant stars came through the massive windows, casting long shadows on the floor. Ambassador Keth of the Altarian people walked slowly to the center of the room. His blue skin looked pale under the bright lights. His hands shook as he held his speech notes. General Vex watched from his special seat high above the floor. The Zelkarian leader was twice the size of most beings in the room. His red armor gleamed and his forearms rested on the chair's metal sides. Behind him sat rows of his officers, all wearing the same red armor. They looked bored. They had conquered 17 star systems. What could this small, peaceful species possibly tell them that would matter? Keth cleared his throat. The sound echoed in the quiet hall. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice soft but clear. "I come before you today with a warning about a world called Earth." Some beings in the crowd shifted in their seats. Earth was a small planet in the outer rim of the galaxy. Most species barely knew it existed. Its people sent out radio signals that showed they were young and divided. They fought wars with primitive weapons and had barely reached their own moon. 50 years ago, Keth continued, my people sent 3 exploration ships to the Earth system. We wanted to make contact with the humans. Our ships were the best we had. They carried our most experienced crews. His voice grew quieter. None of them ever returned. General Vex let out a loud laugh. The sound boomed across the hall. "Ambassador Keth," he called out, his voice deep and rough. "Are you telling us that your ships were destroyed by humans? Beings who still use chemical, rockets and metal bullets?" Other beings in the crowd began to whisper and laugh. The Altarians were known for being peaceful, but they were also known for having weak military forces. Their ships were built for exploration, not fighting. Keth's face showed pain, but he continued. "We sent more ships to find out what happened. These crews were told to stay far from Earth and only watch. What they saw?" He paused, looking around the room. "What they saw made them flee back to our homeworld immediately." "What did they see?" asked Counselor Zara, a tall being from the Vegan system. Her voice showed she was curious, but also doubtful. "Human ships," Keth said, "but not the primitive vessels their radio signals suggested. These ships moved in ways that should not be possible. They appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Our sensors could barely track them." He looked directly at General Vex. "And there were so many of them, hidden throughout their solar system." The crowd grew quiet again. Even General Vex stopped laughing. Keth pressed on. "We are not the only ones who have experienced this. I have spoken with representatives from 6 other species. All of them sent ships to Earth. All of them lost ships or had their crews flee in terror." He pulled out a small device and activated it. Images appeared in the air above the council floor. The first image showed a burned and twisted piece of metal floating in space. "This is all that remains of a Corvan battlecruiser," Keth explained. "The Corvans are known for their strong military. Their ships have thick armor and powerful weapons. This cruiser was found drifting near Earth's moon. There were no survivors." The next image showed a different ship, this one completely intact but empty. "This is a Nexari science vessel. It was found orbiting Earth with all its crew missing. The ship's computers showed no record of any attack. The crew simply vanished." General Vex stood up, his massive form casting a shadow over the floor below. "These could be accidents," he said. "Space is dangerous. Ships are lost all the time." 7 different species, Keth asked. "All near the same world? All with no clear explanation?" He shook his head. "This is not coincidence, General. This is a pattern." Dr. Yule from the Science Division stepped forward. He was a small, gray being with large eyes. "Ambassador Keth," he said in a high, thin voice, "our long-range scans of Earth show a primitive civilization. They burn fossil fuels for energy. They use projectile weapons in their wars. Their fastest ships barely reach a fraction of light speed. How could such a species pose a threat to advanced civilizations?" Keth looked tired. "I cannot explain how, Doctor. I can only tell you what has happened. Every species that has approached Earth with anything more than the most basic observation has suffered losses. Some have lost ships. Some have lost crews. Some have simply had their ships return with crews who refused to speak about what they saw. He activated his device again. This time, an audio recording played. The voice was rough and filled with fear. It spoke in the Altarian language, but the Council's translation system made it understandable to all. Command, this is Captain Thex of the exploration vessel Seeker. We have observed the human homeworld as ordered, but something is wrong here, very wrong. Our sensors detect massive structures beneath their cities, energy readings that make no sense, and the humans, they know we are here. They are watching us. We request immediate permission to leave this system. The recording cut to static. Then another voice came through. Seeker, your request is denied. Continue your mission. Then came Captain Thex's voice again, but now it was filled with panic. Command, they are coming. Human ships, but not like anything in their transmissions. They move like they are alive. We are leaving the system now. Do not send anyone else here. Do not. The recording ended in silence. The Great Hall was quiet for a long moment. Finally, General Vex spoke. Even if this recording is real, he said, it proves nothing. Captain Thex may have panicked over shadows and sensor ghosts. General, Keth said, his voice now strong and clear. I have stood before this council and given you the truth. 7 species have approached Earth. 7 species have suffered losses. The humans may appear primitive, but appearances can lie. I beg you to listen to this warning. General Vex looked around the room at his officers. They all wore expressions of confidence and mild amusement. The Zelkarian Empire had never met an enemy they could not defeat. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could stop any attack. What could one small world of primitive humans do against such power? Ambassador Keth, General Vex said, his voice filled with authority. The Zelkarian Empire appreciates your concern, but we do not make decisions based on fear and rumors. Earth sits in a strategic position on the outer rim. Its resources would benefit the entire galaxy under proper management. He paused, looking down at the small blue figure on the floor, below. The Empire will investigate this world properly, with sufficient force to handle any surprises. Keth's shoulders slumped. He had failed. General, please, do not underestimate them. Whatever the humans truly are, they are not what they appear to be. But General Vex had already turned away, speaking quietly with his officers. Plans were already being made. Ships would be prepared. The conquest of Earth would begin soon. As the council session ended and beings began to leave the Great Hall, Keth stood alone in the center of the room. He had done everything he could. The warning had been given. Whether anyone would listen was no longer in his control. Above, General Vex smiled as he walked toward the exit. Earth would fall within a month. Of this, he was certain. 3 weeks later, the Zelkarian war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 3,000 ships filled the darkness of space. The smallest vessels were twice the size of Earth's largest buildings. The flagship Dominator was so massive it had its own gravity field. General Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue and green world through the main viewing screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance. White clouds swirled over brown and green continents. He could see the lights of human cities on the dark side of the planet. Scan the system, Vex ordered his science officer. Commander Kral worked at his station, his 6 arms moving quickly over the controls. Sir, I detect primitive space stations around the planet. Several small ships in orbit. Nothing that poses a threat to our fleet. Vex nodded. This was exactly what he had expected.